And that's the other thing with King Crimson. It's a lot of work to become a fan, isn't it? Like, you have to listen to them a lot of bloody times before you start enjoying them.
The eternal hiss on all of the records.
Yeah,
is something
yeah.
that'll haunt me.
Yeah.
How have you put King Crimson? How do you know? Before you start.
Yeah. You finish Larks and you go, I hated that album, let's try it again, maybe I'll love it this time. And then you hate it again. King Crimson.
Good evening.
Good evening. In this video we are going to be discussing why we love King Crimson and our first time hearing King Crimson, possibly the greatest prog band of all time.
There must be some sort of, like, you know, gang sign you could do for King Crimson.
Yeah. I mean, he's a king, isn't he? And rappers use king, don't they? Like, there's rappers that use king in there.
K to the C.
Yeah. I only say King Crimson, greatest prog band, because, let's be honest, they kicked it all off within the court, didn't they?
Yeah.
All the other bands like Genesis, The Floyd, or ELP, all spawned because of that one album, didn't they? All the influence that had, and then the later King Crimson. And King Crimson kick-started so many other musicians' careers, didn't they?
And you don't realise until you have these interviews with these musicians that you think, well, that was an inspiration. But from the interviews that I was played as a child when I started my prog adventure, the 1 hour long documentaries on BBC 4, they always stated it was King Crimson and then it was ELP and then it happened. The Nice was mentioned briefly.
Did you ever see that Bill Bailey did that prog rock documentary?
No.
It's called like Top 10 Prog Rock Bands, and Bill Bailey made it in the early 2000s.
It sounds really tacky, doesn't it? When
It's
like an internet thread.
There's a sketch in it with Vic Reeves and Bob Mortimer where they live in this caravan together and play these two characters that only eat ready meals and listen to prog rock, and they've got these really funny accents. In the Court of the Crimson King, despicable album. After Century, it's very funny.
I was going to say, it sounds like us.
I think King Crimson were a name that I think they're a band that a lot of people know, but not a lot of people have listened to. You know, they are just one of the names.
Yeah.
Like, again, you see on jackets, or you'd see mentioned on the internet.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
What did you start with, do you remember?
So, it was actually, when I first did King Crimson, besides the ones like Uncaught the Kings of Crimson that you just heard snippets of on these documentaries, I was, the first time I ever properly heard of them, it was watching King Crimson live in Japan 1984, the Three of a Perfect Pair tour, and it was at a party. And it was at the point of the party where we just had it on, but it was the telly in the background with the sound. And with my altered state of consciousness, I was absolutely bewildered and bemused, and had this strange thought that I've heard this before. I sort of know this, and there was something so oddly familiar about it. But then it turned out I had absolutely no connection to it at all.
Right.
And that's why I was so profound. And I'd realised I had all this music on my PC.
Yeah.
And I asked the friend who played it, I said, what were these tracks? So I went through the Live in Japan 1984 video myself. And stumbled across the beauties, track at a time, and then eventually the albums.
I'm going to be critical of the band here, and the little bit of Robert Fripp. I think their reluctance to be involved in streaming services and YouTube really held the band back.
In what year?
Like sort of in the early 2010s.
Yeah.
So when we were sort of teenagers, you know, you try.
There was nothing about them. There was no
tracks. If anyone posted a King Crimson track on YouTube, it'd be instantly removed. It'd be copyright striked and removed. King Crimson were not on any streaming platforms whatsoever, and I think that hurt them a little bit, because I would hear about them and think, oh well, where can I check them out? Where can I just hear a song? Where can I just hear a bit of King Crimson?
And they were just the name, like you said. They were just this weird sort of, I don't want to say apparition, but almost like a spirit in the music world.
Yeah. You know? Anyway, eventually I managed to pirate In the Court off a strange Japanese, maybe Russian website. I managed to get a pirate of In the Court on my phone, and I remember pressing play, and it doesn't start for a minute. It's just got those weird sounds, and then as soon as Schizoid Man kicked in, I think one of the only times that within 10 seconds I was sold on a song.
Yes, I can get that. Yeah, I remember my dad played it to me, and he was saying, "This is really heavy." And you know, for my dad to say, "I know what heavy is."
But again, from that first repetition of the riff with the double kicks and the saxophone, I instantly knew that it was amazing.
Yes.
A lot of songs, a lot of bands, they take a few songs. I think every other band I've ever listened to, even Genesis, who are my favourite band, it took 3 or 4 songs before I wanted to listen to it again and thought, this is really clever.
Of course.
But King Crimson, straight away, there was just something about that song in particular that I was like, this is the next level of music.
It wasn't until years later, again, when I started discovering these bands properly, that who was singing on that album.
So I
was massively into ELP, and all that sort of thing. And then,
Yeah.
well, that's him.
and that was where he got his start properly.
It was, yeah. And I'll never forget in his book.
Yeah.
It says how broken-hearted Robert Fripp was when he left. He was like, he ruined the band. You know.
Yeah. The other weird thing about In the Court was, so I vibed with Schizoid Man. I didn't like any of the songs on it for quite a long time, because track 2, I Talk to the Wind, I was like, what's this?
You have to, some of it's hard work.
What's this?
I think being a child and avant-garde doesn't always work. I think having a wacky, weird song, but it still has to change a lot.
Yeah.
You know, we always say 10 seconds is a change in music. You have to be really into the song for it to be more.
Schizoid Man, it's got that mad jam in the middle, everyone's got a solo, like it's just, but none of the other songs on the album are as in your face as that.
Yes, yeah. And it was eventually brought back, wasn't it, by a rap gentleman.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Which is why we started covering it.
Yeah. The rest of In the Court, I got the LP and sort of fell in love with it eventually, especially In the Court of the Crimson King. Like, that chorus is, I think, one of the best choruses in prog. Just with all the stacked vocals on top of it.
Yes.
And just how unbelievably epic it is. The only thing I don't like about that album, which it's just a product of its time in it, I wish I could hear everything a bit clearer. You know, like the drummer's doing, Michael Giles is doing so much, like it's one of the first double kick albums. He's doing so much on the double kick and on his toms that he just sort of gets lost in the 60s-ness. It just can't find it because it's just buried in the layers of saxophone and woodwinds and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Greg Lake was absolutely pinnacle for that album with his lovely voice, his young man voice.
Yeah, he was. I think he was 19 when that album came out.
But moving on to Wetty Boy, I think that was another place in its own.
Yeah.
And I found when they moved on to John Wetton, and then as I've listened to Asia and obviously UK and so on, and then gone back to those early Crimson days, you can hear he was still finding his voice. And he had the voice, but he was, he gained his fluidity, especially when UK happened. Yeah,
well, it's like unlocking a box, isn't it? Like he starts to figure out on Larks Tongues what his voice can do, and by the time he's a few albums later on, by the time Red comes along, Wetton is born, isn't it? Like his vocals on that, they are so in your face, and just so heavy.
It's like he's got a proper 80s voice, even in the 70s.
Yeah. Do you know what? When I'm going back to In the Court very briefly, when I was mad into Schizoid Man, especially, I remember playing my older brother saying, "You have to hear this song," and I pressed play on Schizoid Man, and he just wasn't frustrated at all, and he was just like, "Oh, this is all right." And I was so good. And I don't think there's anything worse in life when you're so passionate about a song in a particular moment in time, and you play it to somebody and they're just totally underwhelmed. And my dad, funnily enough, was the same. He was not a King Crimson fan back in the day, and I think coming back to it as an older person, he just couldn't get into it like he could have done back then. Moving on, like the next album I got after that was Larks Tongues with John Wetton, and again, just totally different. I just hated it for quite a while. I just couldn't get on with it. I just thought, what the hell is this? What the hell is this? I was like, that heavy bit's alright, but then the rest of it, I just want bothered for. And then again, it was hard work to get into that album.
Yes.
And that's the other thing with King Crimson. It's a lot of work to become a fan, isn't it? Like, you have to listen to them a lot of bloody times before you start enjoying them, which is really weird. You finish Larks Tongues and you go, I hated that album, let's try it again, maybe I'll love it this time. And then you hate it again, and you keep going back to it, and then eventually your eyes are opened. Robert Fripp opens your ears, doesn't he? And he lets you in, and he shows you how great he is.
You know what it is? It's where you've got a bit in a song and they do it all the time. There's a bit you really like. What a bit that is. And you really want to get to that bit again, but you've got to listen to all the chaff in between. But that chaff eventually begins to make sense.
Yeah.
Or it's the good bit is the reward for having to listen to the rest of that. Like Neurotica, for example.
That's
excellent, lovely middle bit. And then,
and that's the other thing, they're one of the only bands that really did reinvent themselves with every single release.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, a sticky 3 albums in the 80s there. But they outdid themselves and then knew when to stop. That was the thing.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think that's the other thing that keeps them fresh compared with some of the other contemporaries, is that when it stopped being fun, or when they realised they'd sort of taken something as far as it'd go, they do something else.
Yeah.
There's only one Larks Tongues 2. Well, no, there's 4 of them now, isn't there? But there's only one red.
There's only the one.
They didn't try to do red again.
One more red nightmare, banger in it. Yeah, it goes on a bit, but then the rest of it's banger.
Yeah, a bit of fear of flying.
I know, and that's always the thing with context, especially with King Crimson. You actually dissolve what the context's about. Bloody hell, really?
Yeah.
You know, the place that it could take you mentally will be totally different to what the song is.
Yeah. Oh, it's brilliant. And then we have King Crimson 0.5 with UK, which is King Crimson without Fripp, which a lot of people included the sort of King Crimson world.
I've not really thought of it that way, King Crimson without Fripp.
Well, it's got 3 of them. It's got 3 of them.
Yeah,
it's got Bruce on drums, Wetton on vocals, and Eddie Jobson did some violin repairs on the live album. He did some overdubbing on this live album, this King Crimson live album. So you think King Crimson are done after Red, and then in 1981 they smashed the door open again for the 80s with the world's most obnoxiously produced drum sounds, the most chorusy guitars in the world, with the wonderful Discipline album.
And I mean, it was Discipline, Beat, and so on. It was those that really got me into aspiring to play drums. I was already established at playing drums and being in bands, but I didn't like drummers. I didn't like drumming and stuff. I could do it. And as I listened to that, I was listening to, and it was a long time until you told me there was a lot of overdubs. Yeah. But I was thinking, how the bloody hell does he do that? It was absolutely blowing my mind. And then as I sort of got to learn, understand how Discipline works, it's actually, I say it's not that hard. I sort of got it and understood why it worked and where one was and all that. Yeah. And I will never ever say it wasn't a massive part of my production into how I play music now. It skyrocketed me into an alternative form of thinking and playing. 100%. And at the time when I discovered them, I actually was in a lull, not playing drums, so all this stuff was going in and being stored. And then as I sort of picked up playing with you and Max back in the day, that's when it all started coming out again. You know King Crimson as well, and having someone to listen to it with.
You listen to King Crimson every day, and you went to work for like 3 years.
Yes, well, as people very well know, I have a bit of a tick of listening to the same song over and over and over again. It spanned from months to years, listening to this song at least 3 times a day. And Frame by Frame was one of the main ones. That was most. But Three of a Perfect Pair as well. And I can absolutely understand every segment of that song now and hear all the joins.
What's the worst reaction you've ever had when you've played someone King Crimson?
I've had people make fun of Frame by Frame, and I've had to, you don't know. What do you know? One thing I've noticed across the board is playing Three of a Perfect Pair to people. They're a bit like, what's this, until the first chorus comes in. And then when it goes from the guitar, well, I say guitar solo, the noise solo, into the last chorus, then that's when they turn, because it's a proper smooth 1, 2, and it works perfectly. If Bruford had done a double time at end like he does live on the studio version, it'd have been sold.
A lot of King Crimson is nightmare music, isn't it? Like, it sounds, I think it's very hard to have music without lyrics, to have just instrumental music that's terrifying.
Yes, I mean, obviously listening to an awful lot of Fetus and Grotus, I can agree, but one thing I found, especially with the use of heavy psychedelics and other sorts of things like that, is sometimes you want to go to these scary places, just like when you're sad. You listen to sad songs to make you more sad. Or when you're happy, you listen to pump up music to pump you up more. You know, and sometimes you want to go to this scary place. Or even better, you want to take someone to that scary place. And some people understand the cacophony or what seems like cacophony. And other times, no, this is just crap. Like BBC Horror Sound Effects Volume 2 that I've got.
And also, don't forget the grinding, eternal you know, that's all lives rent-free in my head forever, the stuff like that.
Well, I think the eternal hiss on all of the records is something that'll haunt me. How have you put King Crimson? How do you know? Before you start.
King Crimson are particularly famous for having records that are horribly produced. You know, when you listen to the albums,
they were the best band, didn't they? Like LP, they were the best band ever. But we've got the hobo producer in for that.
Like the guy who produced Larks Tongues, that was the first album he ever produced in it, and it does show. Like it does show. I think it's one of those people back then, they didn't think music could last very long. You know, it was just like, it was just brand new, and so no one really took it seriously. I think if Fripp and the other guys had known people like us would be obsessing over it. Like half a century later, they would have gone, let's take it again. Let's do it again. Let's get it more pristine. But because everything was done so quickly, then when you look at like the touring schedules back in the day, it's insane. Like they were on tour 50 weeks a year.
That's all they did.
Yeah, they just constantly toured.
And I tell you what, that is the biggest gutting part of life that I found reading all the autobiographies of all these people we revere and respect. I wanted to be there. We don't get a chance now. Everything's on a computer. All there's cameras everywhere. Oh.
Desert Island. You can only take one King Crimson album. Which one is it?
3 of a Perfect Pair.
3 of a Perfect Pair. Solid choice. I'm gonna go technicality here. We're gonna go not the best of King Crimson. I'm not that much of a cop out.
King Crimson Greatest Hits.
Yeah. It'd just be called King Crimson Greatest Misses, wouldn't it? Or something. No, live album USA.
Yes, in fact, I've actually got your copy of it. I believe
that's an astonishing. I think I would only choose USA because it's got Schizoid Man on there, a great version of Schizoid Man, but it's also got Larks too, a few of the live tracks from that era. It's got for me everything that I loved about King Crimson.
When you asked me and I heard that pause, then I should have done it like Robert Fripp on documentary.
Oh yeah.
Just held it. See how long it'll take you to go.
Yeah. we can't forget when it was your birthday this year. We got Robert Fripp to send you a birthday message from Cameo. It was the best 80 quid I've ever spent, honestly. It was so funny.
And I'd come round to have a practice and watch this. And it Robert Fripp there, and I thought it was just some video to go, hello there, Patrick! And whoa! And I couldn't stop laughing. It was so funny. And he was so lovely and polite and modest. It's like, I've heard you're a very good drummer. I've heard and not actually seen for myself.
Can you imagine Bill Bruford's cameos would be a bit boring if he joined Cameo?
I hope you're having a 4-7 day.
Yeah. I hope you're having a top birthday and not getting drunk and getting wasted.
Top birthday.
I have a top day from Dr. Bill Bruford.
Sorry, Bruford, if you want to get in touch, let me know. I'd like to
we don't
need to make fun of you.
Yeah. Bill Bruford, there is always a third chair available for these videos if you want to drop in.
One with extra short legs for you.
Yeah. Well, I hope you enjoyed listening to us ramble about King Crimson for a good chunk of time. Again, like in the Pink Floyd when we talked about so much and so little at the same time. But yeah, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe.
Good night.